Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit that subscribe button if you're new so you don't miss any of our great football content this season. This episode is presented by Uber Eats. When football makes you hungry, order Uber Eats. I do every weekend. All right, time to look at this weekend's tastiest matchup in this week's Sunday Night Food Ball, brought to you by Uber Eats, a company I use all the time. All right, it's time for our Sunday night pod. It's a wild day of crazy outcomes, special teams, blocked kicks, returns for touchdowns. One of the weirder Sundays. Let's start with Bears 31, Cowboys 14. Let's spend a lot of time on this. So I felt for the first time, John, and I wrote it down here. I really felt it in that 19-play drive in the third quarter. I wrote down harmony. I really thought it was the first time out of the first drive that I thought Caleb and Ben, there was a certain harmony. Like he wasn't rushing anything. Caleb made a couple of big-time throws, capped it in the end zone. I think it was DJ Moore. But now, the Cowboys, again, they won the field position game. Chicago did. Dallas, CeeDee Lamb got hurt. Second quarter, they didn't have a lot of offense in the second half. And I know Dallas isn't very good defensively, but listen, half the teams in this league aren't going to be very good defensively going forward with injuries and personnel. I thought there was improvement. I thought Caleb, he dirted a couple of easy balls, but I thought there was some harmony with Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story of the game is Ben Johnson versus Eberflus, which would be like, a 20-year-old playing a 5-year-old in pickup basketball. It's not a fair fight. I mean, Eberflus probably, I understand, like you said, injuries, but I think Eberflus is probably the worst defensive coordinator going. So I have a hard time. Listen, I give Caleb credit. He made that flea flicker is one of the more beautiful throws you will see all season long.
Yeah.
It felt like it flew night, but I don't put much emphasis on. I mean, they scored touchdowns with guys wide open. Komet wide open touchdown. DJ Moore wide open touchdown. And Rome, I think the first touchdown of the game was a dig just fell on the ground.
Right.
So it's just I listen. I'm not trying to be negative on this. A win's a win. Cool moment for Ben getting his first win. But I truly believe that some guys in this league get recycled unfairly, and Eberflus is a good example. He has no business being a defensive coordinator. It's embarrassing. I mean, there's no one even around. So Caleb's hitting these guys. There was a stretch early in the second quarter where he missed a couple balls over the middle. I'm like, oh.
Yes.
But then he calmed down. I thought Ben Johnson, for the first time this year, had a rhythm in his play calling.
That's what I thought.
It felt like Detroit. But he's facing Eberflus. You face Green Bay, Minnesota, the better defenses. It's not like that. So I have a hard time making a grand proclamation that Caleb's fixed or anything, but you can only play who you're playing, and they shredded. And he hit guys that were wide open. More of a reflection to me on Eberflus than it is Caleb is fixed.
But one thing watching the Bears I felt is they do have good offensive personnel. I mean, Jesus, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. Swift's a nice back. He's not a star, but he's a nice back. If you give Caleb reasonable protection, which he certainly had on the interior, they ran the ball better today. Here's the one thing. Is if they become like the 23rd best scoring team in the league, it's not going to be on the personnel or Ben. They've got good players here. They have some really, even their third string back is a capable player.
I would agree with you there. I think two things can be true, right? Eberflus and the Cowboys defensive personnel might be the worst in the league combination, and the Bears are not as bad as they have looked through two games, offensive personnel standpoint. Listen, is Rome ever going to be Malik Neighbors or Jamar Chase? Probably not. But he's a really good player, and he could be probably a really good 2. We know DJ Moore is like a fringe, 1B, 2. So that they got two good receivers. Cole Kmet's a good tight end. And he's technically, they drafted a guy to supplant him. So I'm with you there. I'm fascinated to watch. Listen, sometimes, especially with a young player, a young person, however you could get confidence is important. So whether it's against the worst defense in the league, who cares, right? So now it's time, can you build on this? Who do they play next week? The Raiders, who aren't very good, right? I mean, so that is something to keep an eye on. If they can build on it, then maybe there is some life here. I just have a hard time extracting much from throwing it to guys that are wide open in the NFL because we know that's not the case. 15 to 16 of the games that you're going to play throughout the year, especially in that
Right.
division, which is a good defensive division.
It's once CeeDee Lamb got banged up. I mean, you got Tolbert and Turpin and George Pickens and Javonte Williams, pretty good running back. But it is, listen, here's what you and I both felt coming into the Cowboy season. This is a bad coaching staff. And I thought today, there was one point it was a 14-14 game, but it was 14-3 after the first quarter. And was it 14-14 here? Or do I make a mistake here? No, it was 24-14. I think there was a point in the game when CeeDee Lamb went out, and I thought, well, they've got some pretty decent weapons. But one of the things that was pretty clear is that Dak was trying to throw the ball down the field and was getting pretty good protection, but he couldn't. And so once CeeDee Lamb was out of the game, he was looking downfield. You'd see him multiple times, John. Dak would be waiting and waiting to go downfield, and he would dump it off. Is that if you take CeeDee Lamb out, you can see the Cowboys have missed defensively and offensively. They've missed on draft picks. They have a lot of C-level players.
Well, let's take the two teams, coaching staffs. Ben Johnson obviously is one of the better offensive coordinators and offensive minds in the league. And even Brady said Dennis Allen is one of the tougher defensive coordinators he faced as a player. And I don't think he's just thrown out there. We've seen him when he was with the Broncos, with Peyton Manning, excellent. And obviously when he was with Sean Payton, they had a couple years where the Saints defense was excellent. That's why he got the job when Sean basically took the year off, right? So then you look, Brian Schottenheimer hires Eberflus. Say what you want about Mike McCarthy. His two defensive coordinators the last couple, stretch was Dan Quinn and then Mike Zimmer, right? I mean, those are obviously Dan Quinn is one of the better coaches in the league, and Mike Zimmer's resume speaks for itself. So you go from those two guys to Eberflus. I can't get over. I had a buddy one time tell me he was a longtime quarterback coach and he became an offensive coordinator for like one of the worst teams in the league. And I said, I get the money, but can't this derail your career? He's like, actually, this changes my career. Because once you go, oh, that guy's an offensive coordinator, whether you have success or you don't, you just get in that mix, right? Mike McCarthy, when he became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, hadn't been some dynamic offensive coordinator for years, but he was viewed as like that was the next step. And I think sometimes guys, Eberflus becomes a head coach. Well, if he's not a head coach, he's then just a coordinator. You see this with Brandon Staley. Well, what if they're actually just position coaches, and they get in this cycle and, Ben Johnson gets to play him and was running circles around him today. I mean, the flea flicker is a good example. Where I thought the flea flicker because the guy almost got tackled. I'm like, this thing's
yes.
And he hits him and the guy's wide open. It's like, what is going on? These guys have no clue what they're doing. So listen, the coaching in this league, when you get good defensive coordinators, it really stands out. The Brian Flores, the Robert Salas, the Vic Fangios. When you get bad ones, it really stands out. And I think that was pretty evident in this game with Ben Johnson. And listen, I'm not trying to diminish Caleb Williams, but he was throwing to wide open guys, which is pretty unheard of. It happens on a play, but it happened play after play after play. I mean, it was an unserious defensive performance.
That was this week's Sunday Night Football, brought to you by Uber Eats. When football makes you hungry, get game day deals on Uber Eats. I do every week. The official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. I just did. All right, Rams at one point led 26-7 and lost 33-26 to Philadelphia. I have two major takes here. First of all, the Rams didn't draft a corner. And that was one of the curious things. That was one of their primary needs, was maybe a quarterback for the future, and it was a bad quarterback class, and cornerbacks. They didn't. And AJ Brown ate today. There was a lot of third downs. Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, Rams, and it wasn't like they were beaten badly. It wasn't like they were poorly coached like Dallas. They just don't have any playmakers in the back end. And then twice kicks get blocked. They didn't draft a center, another position of need on that offensive line. They're not very good at center. They've got, Shelton Coleman, I think, who's been around forever, and a kid out of Arkansas they drafted 6th or 7th round, and 3 times now against Philadelphia. Last year, remember, in the playoff game when the Rams are driving and Jalen Carter blows up the final play, blows up their 6th, 7th round center, and then twice on field goals, it's a Jordan Davis blowing up their field goals, 2 block, 1 for a touchdown. So they didn't address a lot of what they addressed in the offseason. Devontae Adams has been a good find. Lanneman, the interior linebacker, has been a good get. But they didn't draft a corner, and they are below average at center. And if you play Philadelphia and you don't have people and you don't have an elite corner against AJ or Devontae, and you can't block Jalen Carter and Davis, you're in big trouble. And I just thought, it was a remarkable game in the first half. It was a coaching mismatch. Like McVay was doing whatever he wanted. But in the end, I think Philadelphia went in, Nick Sirianni made some adjustments, and they completely dominated the second half. I just think when they play Philadelphia, the interior of the Eagles' defensive line just continues to dominate the Rams. Remember the 4th and 1 call the Rams made, and the big guys blew that up as well. It's like 4 separate plays in 2 years, and the Eagles are 2-0 in those games because of those moments.
And even Greg Olsen said, like, I wouldn't do that in this spot here. And McVay was like, because I'm with you. The Rams showed up to kick their ass, and they came out of the gate swinging. And it's at one point in time, I think it's 19-7 at half. It felt more like 30-7.
It did.
And the yardage that was up there was like 200 to 40 yards. I felt, knowing that town a little bit, like I think this offensive coordinator is going to get fired. He's 3 games in. Listen, they're the defending champs, but this is not going to fly. And give them credit. They came out and they just started throwing it to 11. They said, you know what? And Greg also kept saying it, like, just target him. Remember in the first game, he had 1 target. Just throw the ball to 11, and they just started doing that. Some of it, it's not like Jalen is throwing these frozen ropes. Some of them are kind of floating in the air. AJ's attacking it. He's throwing the guy off him. It's one of the great turnarounds of Sirianni's career in a one-game situation, because I thought, this thing's weird. I mean, are they about to get blown out at home with people booing their offense? And I don't feel he gets a bad rap because they always boo. Well, I mean, what are they supposed to do? Cheer?
John,
I mean, what?
At halftime, it was 115 yards rushing for the Rams, 34 for the Eagles. Rams had basically 100 yards passing. Philadelphia had -1. I mean, the game was 19-7 at half, and no question, it should have been like 27-7 or 30-7. It was a complete mismatch. But again,
Stafford missed a couple passes down the stretch too.
There was also Puka dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone. It wasn't an easy catch, but he should have made it. It was one of these games when I look at Stafford, if he's out of rhythm and he missed a couple of passes, both in the red zone, you don't get anything out of the pocket. And I felt like he didn't have his best game. I thought in the second half he just was out of rhythm.
One defining moment that's kind of like a football in the weeds, but they mentioned on the broadcast too that Lane Johnson gets hurts his neck, and it goes, that can't be good. And they put in the backup, and the backup is just getting destroyed. I mean, they were putting Verse over there, and they got no shot. Well, then a couple series, they bench that guy and go to another backup, and he's dramatically better. And to me, that's kind of the defining attribute of this organization. They're pretty ruthless. Like, just because you're the quote-unquote backer, you're not getting it done. You'll last 2 series, you're out of there throwing another guy. And that helped change the game, because there was a moment where you went, well, with Lane Johnson out, the physicality of the Rams, their front, with Verse, with Young, with Fisk, like they're taking over this game. I mean, Jalen was, sometimes he struggles a little bit. It feels like he's just out of rhythm. But today, he was under siege in that first half, getting destroyed. So, I think it shouldn't be that complicated. Like the Rams, they throw it to Puka Nacua all the time. Well, no shit. Like, how does it take you so long to throw it to AJ Brown? Especially with Saquon, the game plan was this. Force Jalen to stay within the pocket where he's not as comfortable and corral Saquon Barkley. Well, if one thing Jalen is good at is throwing outside the numbers. Anyone in the league will tell you that. Obviously on the move, throwing the ball down the field, but even in the pocket, throwing outside the numbers is something he's very comfortable doing. And clearly they got 2, elite wide receivers. I mean, they probably have one of, if not the best 1-2 combination in the league. And it looked like it was broken, and then it wasn't. And then, like you said, I mean, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, I mean, these guys are blue chipper. Did you see how fast Jordan Davis? I know he's lost weight, but on that field goal block where he could have just
18 miles an hour.
He was, at one point in time, it was taking like 2 steps to cover 5 yards. I'm like, I don't think people realize, even though he no longer weighs 350 and maybe weighs 325, the movement on this human being. And he's not even their star defensive tackle. That's Jalen Carter. So that was a blue chip game all the way around. Like I don't view the Rams that much differently. Like I think like watching the Niners, like I would say today the Rams are a better team currently than the 49ers. But listen, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to find a way to win a game that you are controlling on the road.
Well,
the Eagles did not have life. They had no life.
The Eagles have a star in every unit. The Rams at corner, they really need work.
But Colin, most teams don't have, Deion Sanders or Darrelle Revis out there. Right. So especially once AJ gets going, you would think you would cheat a little bit and give him some help. I mean, they left him on an island, and AJ was just throwing whoever was on him one-on-one just over his shoulder. They're just, working another 5, 10, 20 yards down the field.
It's amazing what happens in these games. Puka drops a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Then they want to take a field goal to go up 29-21, and it gets blocked. And it's like, oh, shit. And then Hurts hits Devontae Smith, 28-26. They lead. But that touchdown, when it's dropped, then the field goal is blocked, and you're like, there's just 2 plays, and that's what the Eagles do. They just got a hand on the Puka on the Puka drop, just enough body on it, and then they block the kick. And so when you have these moments, Dallas had these a couple weeks ago when they played Philadelphia. You have these moments, and when you play Philadelphia and you have these moments, you have to make the plays because they've shown they're an uneven football team. They have really bad halves. It's not that rare for Jalen Hurts to have a really bad half. He had a bad half against the Rams in the playoff game. Like he has, this team is uneven. But when their horsepower revs up and they get momentum, I mean, Saquon's not even running. He hasn't been nearly as effective. But when they get going and they get that pass rush, and over the course of a game, their defensive front wears you out. And I felt like at the end of the game, the Rams had all these card tricks, and then it just came down to personnel, and the Eagles had better personnel.
I also think when you have, a guy like Saquon Barkley that terrifies these defensive coordinators that at any moment can go 50 if you screw up a lane, they spend so much effort trying to corral him. Well, they got Jalen Hurts, who at any moment they can just do that kind of keeper play, and then he can go, and you saw it with Kyler Murray. When you have a guy, those guys want to throw it. Like Jalen no longer wants to run it, but at any moment when he has to, he can get you 7 yards. So like you said, yeah, he can be terrible, but at any moment he can just gain them a momentum play with his own legs because you spend all your effort going on Saquon. Like, I don't think Saquon's numbers so far through the beginning of the year look great. Can you imagine the emphasis Monday through Saturday that the defensive coordinators are screaming at the units to stop him? So, and that's where Jalen, and they always have that in their back pocket, and they've used it a couple times in the second half, of just let him get to the edges. Because even when you watch Kyler, he looks like a wide receiver or something with the ball in his hands. Sometimes Jalen, when he's running, doesn't even look that fast, but he's just a smooth runner, and he's very natural in space. He had one run today for like 8-9 yards in the second half that is just something they can kind of keep in their back pocket. And let's face it, they play in a lot of close games because their offense has kind of been anemic this year.
Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. I'm wearing my shirt right here. Been a big day of football. Let's look ahead to Monday night, Detroit versus Baltimore. Listen to these streaks from Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub. You can find live odds bets on all of these streaks in the Hard Rock Bet app. Baltimore has covered the spread in 4 straight home games. Lamar has rushed for 58 yards in 5 consecutive Week 3 games. All that info and a whole lot more is a tap away. You can bet it right there on the Hard Rock Bet app. If you haven't tried your first bet on the Hard Rock Bet, there's still time. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet. If it hits, you get not only your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets. You also get profit boosts for every day of Week 3. So if you've already missed Thursdays and you haven't used Sundays, don't miss out. Mondays, you can boost your parlay so it pays extra winnings. Download the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app. Takes 90 seconds. Make your first deposit. Okay, we're not going in any particular order here because the 2 big ones, Bears, Cowboys, Rams, Eagles, we've discussed. I'll go with the Chargers beating the Broncos 23-20. It was Mario Hampton at his first touchdown. One of my takeaways in this game is that especially in the last several drives for both teams, Herbert's talent shines. Yeah. And as I watch Bo Nix, because he had 61 college starts, John, he came into this league very close to his ceiling. And I think we've seen it. And as I watched him today, my takeaway is this is what he is. Where I think with Herbert, Harbaugh's taken him to another level, and then Caleb Williams. But I feel that with Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's waiting for the next pop, and this is what Trevor Lawrence is. He's kind of a long strider, gets balls batted down despite his size, can miss some open things, sees the field okay, not exceptionally. And I watched Bo Nix today, and he had a big play to Cortland Sutton, but again, he was wide open. It was a blown coverage by the Chargers. And he had a couple of really impressive scrambles. But I watched Herbert hit Keenan Allen on a huge play. And the moments of the game where you needed great athletes to make great plays, I kind of feel like what Bo Nix is, this is it. And if you're waiting for a jump, you're not really going to get it. That was my takeaway watching this game today.
Franklin had a drop two in the end zone that would have been a touchdown, but there's no disputing the two guys. I mean, to me, Justin Herbert Patrick Mahomes is going to play a little bit later tonight, but he's been right there with Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson is the best quarterbacks in the league so far. Do you notice they are throwing deep bombs to Quentin Johnson multiple a game?
Yes.
Uncork it. And he missed them today on one, but at one point in time,
he made one catch. Yeah,
he made, but they are throwing go routes and post routes to one, and Herbert is letting it fly. I mean, the play he made to Keenan Allen for the game-tying touchdown was Josh Allen, Mahomes. I mean, that's just
yes.
Bo Nix doesn't have that in the bag. I thought this was a kitchen sink game for Denver. Chargers played Monday night on the road.
Yes.
A late pushback because it was a 7:00 kickoff. So what time, whatever they get back to the offices, 2, 3 in the morning, you're all thrown off. Monday shot because you played. Tuesday, you barely slept. You're trying to get a game plan together. They are behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
Denver, coming off a bad loss, you think would be motivated, had extra time. And when they're up 20-13, you're like, this is going to be a really impressive win for Peyton.
That's what I thought.
And not that terrible of a loss by the Chargers, like short week. You didn't even play that bad. You're missing Khalil Mack. It's not the end of the world. And they found a way to win. I mean, you called him, the greatest coach of all time?
Yes.
He's in full control. He's beat every team in the division through 3 games. Their defense is pretty dominant.
But John, it's amazing. They had a blown coverage, the Cortland Sutton. But they went and drafted a couple corners in the 5th round. They have the stickiest secondary. I mean, because I think Denver's got some pretty quick young weapons. It's amazing. This was the worst defense in the league 20 games ago. The worst by a long shot. They are sticky. There's just not a lot open.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, it's probably, toward the end of 2023 when they gave up, 60 or 70 points to the Raiders on that Thursday night game with Brandon Staley, the night he was fired. I wrote down, is Derwin James, it's early, the defensive player of the year? I mean, he's on that path. Right. I mean, the way they talk about him, how versatile he is for them. They're tackling. Looking back, like Harbaugh's team, let's say with the 49ers, of course they tackled well. They had Dante Hittner. They had Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, right? This team's like, who are these guys? Derwin James and Khalil Mack, but who are some of these? And they are hitting like they're the most physical defense in the league. And Denver technically was that last year.
Yeah.
And it feels like the Chargers have already, if not matched, surpassed them. And we know they got the better quarterback, right? You could argue early in the season, like Herbert's every bit as good as Patrick Mahomes, if not better, the way he's playing right now when you factor in the weapons. So you go, they got an elite quarterback. They got the best defense. We know they got an elite coach. Not just a coach, a coaching staff. How about, I was thinking about this the other day, is we've been hard over the years, and rightfully so, like Belichick's coaching tree is atrocious. It's like the opposite of like Bill Walsh's. Underrated coaching tree, and it's like an organization, is the Ravens. forever back in the day with Billick, all the defensive coordinators, and then with Harbaugh, all the different guys.
Now they got Jesse Minter.
Jesse Minter is basically Mike McDonald 2.0, and Jim Harbaugh just took him from John. And look at this guy. They create such great defensive coordinators that in a day and age where we got to have an offensive guy, and you're the one beating that drum. You're like, well, this guy's so good, I might as well hire him to be my head coach. That's how good their guys are. I mean, let's face it. How's this guy not going to be a head coach at the end of this year? I mean, he's basically just doing Mike McDonald again. And we saw, look how good Mike McDonald is. I mean, Seattle looks really good through 3 games.
Yeah, no, it was a gut check win. When you come out, you don't have the prep time. You don't play particularly well in the first half. Najee Harris, by the way, this thing has just not worked. He got the 4th of July fireworks. He had eye damage. Then he gets injured today. Yeah. So it's like Hampton's actually had a little bit of a life. I mean, a little bit. So it feels like, they're very lucky. They drafted Joe Alt, right? And everybody said receiver. And then Slater gets hurt, and Joe Alt's been terrific. And then they bring in, Najee Harris, and Hampton sort of starts slow. The Najee Harris thing doesn't work. So, and then, people kind of went, is Hampton like a first-round running back? The truth is the guys they've drafted have worked. They've drafted guys, and they have needed them, and they have delivered.
And sometimes you also need, I don't even want to say luck in a personnel move, but just something to work out in your favor. And listen, they broke up with Keenan Allen a year ago when they traded him, and he was available when they brought him back, and that thing looks like an excellent pickup because Keenan Allen, I mean, through 3 weeks is making huge plays for him. Their style, now, technically right now they would have home games potentially, but if they had to go, if they end up the 2 or 3 seed and have to go on the road in the playoffs, translates, right? Play defense, elite quarterback, run the ball, play in low-scoring, ugly games. Like, that works in January. What we always said about, like, Mike McDaniels in the Tua situation, like, this is not going to work in the playoffs when it gets cold. Harbaugh works in the playoffs when it gets cold. So I think their stuff is going to translate. Obviously, it comes down to health. I do think it's pretty important, and they also avoided disaster in that Khalil Mack, when he got injured, that moment on Monday night, you thought that he snapped his arm or something. Well, it turns out he might just miss a month and be okay, and you see him on the sideline. He's got the thing on. Maybe if he's able to come back and be Khalil Mack, because I think that would have been a move. Like, they could replace Slater because they had Alt. Like, you don't replace that physical presence, so you get him back to go with Derwin James and their overall defensive presence. I think whatever Harbaugh does with his quarterbacks, the mental psychology that he plays of, some people think it's corny and hyperbolic or whatever, but he knows what he's doing. He's a little more intelligent when it comes to the motivation aspect than I think he gets credit for, because Herbert looks like John Elway or something right now in his prime. How special is his? Isn't it crazy looking back that Tua Tagovailoa was drafted above Justin Herbert? I mean, that's one that's going to age in time. Like, how did that happen? How did we sit in the draft room and put those 2 guys together and take this one over that one? Like, it's pretty crazy. Now, it's easy to say money, because even the Chargers, I think, kind of said that we probably would have taken Tua over them. Yeah. But, like, when you watch the 2 of them several years later, like, this is a different stratosphere of player.
Yeah, I mean, size matters. I said it this week on FS1. How's Bryce Young, Tua, Kyler Murray, Johnny Manziel? You start looking at these guys, Russell Wilson, size matters. Herbert, 6'5", hose, big arm, physical player. I mean, I'm sorry. If he put on 15 pounds, he could be a tight end in the league. It matters. He's just got so much horsepower.
There was a play today. It was like 3rd and 9 with, if the Cardinals get the first down, they could probably ice the game. What happens? Fred Warner tips the ball. Kyler's 5'9". And unlike Bryce, he's an elite athlete, so he can make these crazy plays. But you're sitting in a pocket when you're 5'9", 5'10". It's much harder to see. I know we went through this stretch where it's like, we love these 5'10" quarterbacks. I like my guys to be 6'5" and run 4.6s with huge arms. I'll take Justin Herbert. You can take a little guy.
Well, I've been using my JLAB headphones for a couple of years now, and they're still like brand new. They have great, amazing battery life. So JLAB engineers products for every move, for every mood, for every you. So JLAB believes in amplifying every version of you through superior audio technology. So they've got innovative design, great value, by the way, really fairly priced. So I use the J-Buds Lux over-ear headphones, comfortable, longest play time, active noise canceling. So I use them whenever I fly. I just put those puppies on, and because I love to sleep on planes. And so if there's a crying baby or somebody that's talkative, I put those puppies on. If you're hanging out in the backyard, you could have the J-Buds party speaker, splash-proof LED lights, can sync up to 100 for the ultimate party. So customize your sound and the lights in the app for everyday errands. Walk around the office stuff. There's the Epic Pods ANC. So again, super sleek, comfortable, long battery life. All JLAB products in the blue box. You can get them at Best Buy, Walmart, Target. I find them in airports. Or go to Amazon or JLAB.com today. Okay, Colts 41, Titans 20. Cam Ward had a bad pick six early. They asked him to throw once again 38 times on the road. Good luck. The Daniel Jones thing is fascinating. So J-Mac was joking last week, is he the new Baker? And I'm like, well, he doesn't throw the ball as well as Baker, and he's not as athletic as Darnold. He could be the next Geno. But I looked at some numbers today. He was 7 of 9 down the field, 10 plus today. Jonathan Taylor, you start looking at their personnel between Pierce, Warren, Pittman, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor. They average 7 yards a play. Daniel Jones is throwing the ball down the field. Is he 18 of 25, 230 yards? I mean, again, he's running the offense, John. They had 4 penalties. They didn't have any turnovers. First of all, I think the roster is better than people give it credit for. I think they have really interesting offensive personnel. I mean, they've got, if your number 3 receiver is Josh Downs, pretty good number 3 receiver, considering you have an excellent tight end, a star running back. Remember that the Broncos got no real pass rush, and the Broncos get a pass rush on everybody, and they were pretty much stymied against the Colts. But I watched Daniel Jones today, and, you know, I look, he's big, he moves. We talked about it. He's like a stronger, bigger Alex Smith. I sat and watched them today, and I think they're going to win this division. Because I think they have probably have the best offensive coach. I think their roster top to bottom. I don't know. I watched Daniel Jones today, and he's making big throws down the field.
I'd be stunned if they didn't win the division. He made several throws down the middle of the field that hitting guys in stride. I can't imagine Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard when they see themselves in the hallway over the last couple of weeks. Or this guy was a lifeline for them. He was, they were drowning. They were in trouble. They were going to get fired. Anthony Richardson was going to, and some of these reports have come out that the owner forced them to take him. Like it didn't even sound like they want to take him. But they pivoted, and they got Daniel Jones, who looks like not only is he going to save their careers, but he's resurrecting his. I mean, he's going to get a contract extension. Like,
yes.
Do you entertain, if you are 11, 12 wins, giving him an extension in the season, like 3 years, $90 million or something like this?
John,
with the personnel you have and the coach you have, it makes sense.
Yeah, and you wouldn't get burned in that division. Again,
no.
Because the Jags are tied to their quarterback, Houston's tied to theirs, Tennessee for 3 years is tied to theirs. You're not facing Herbert and Mahomes, Josh Allen. You're facing, solid quarterback play. So my takeaway, I know Chris Ballard, I like him, and I said this last week. Chris had talked, they scrimmaged against the Packers and the Ravens, in preseason, and his takeaway was, we can play with these teams. Our personnel matches up. Are we as good? I don't know, but he felt like watching it. He was like, we've got guys, we've got dudes. I think in that division, we've said this. Baker Mayfield in the division he's in. He is Josh Allen in that division. He's got 3 straight game-winning drives. So it does matter. And I think Daniel Jones, he's young, he's big, he's strong, nice weapons. I don't know. I just watch him and I think Daniel Jones would not have happened, John, 10, 15 years ago in this league. But there's so many good offensive coaches that you have this ability on your 3rd and 4th team to pop and resurrect your career.
Well, we talked about it earlier with Schottenheimer and Eberflus. I think the Colts are kind of the opposite. They pivoted off Gus Bradley, and they got Lou Anarumo, who, like 3 years ago, was viewed as one of the best defensive coordinators. And guess what? The Browns are cheap. Or, the Brown family is with the Bengals. So they let a lot of guys go. And this, in college, you and me could run a program. If we had by far the best roster, it's going to be hard for us, if you and I were coaching the team, to not be really good. That's not the way the pros work. We see a lot of talented teams lose a lot of games. You need good players and you need good coaching. So they got Lou Amaruno and Shane Steichen, and now they got just I would say he's more than functional right now. When Alex Smith resurrected his career with Harbaugh, and then even early on with Andy, he was not the player that he became at the end when they pivoted to Patrick Mahomes. He was a lot better then. And then he went to Washington before he got injured. Alex was playing at a high level. Daniel Jones kind of went from really, really crappy the last couple of years to the guy we're watching right now is just playing really well. Like, because of the conference he's in, but it's like he's having a Pro Bowl-like season, distributing the ball. Yeah. They have a bunch of playmakers. They have good coaching staff. They can run the ball. Their defense is good. Houston's in shambles. I mean, C.J. Stroud's going the wrong way. Not all his fault. Yeah. O-line sucks. Running game sucks. That thing's in shambles.
They're not doing anything well. They can't. No. They can't run the ball.
They're good on defense. That's it. They're good on defense, and their offense is basically a negative. And you watch Jacksonville; they just kind of seem like meh. So I think the Colts are in the driver's seat as long as they keep Daniel Jones healthy, and they deserve credit for making this move. I said the moment they made the move, I'd be stunned if this guy doesn't start. And I think when I was on the Fox show, I said that this guy could, resurrect his career because just we've seen it happen so recently. Quarterback with some skills gets with a offensive mind, right? And Baker, Sam Darnold, now Daniel Jones. We've seen a lot of these guys, because of the impatience of the modern NFL, which I do think is fair. Like, you're not just going to keep rolling a guy out if it doesn't work. But that doesn't mean a guy can't go somewhere else. It's having people believe in you is powerful. And I can imagine it was probably pretty clear to Daniel Jones, like, God, not only these guys believe in me, but I think we could be I could be a good player here. And it's clearly working.
Steelers 21, New England 14. I had probably the toughest 3 beats of the year. New England beat themselves. 5 turnovers, bad decisions, multiple penalties. Aaron made a couple of nice throws, one to Metcalf, and another to Calvin Austin. Again, like, you struggled to give the Bears credit. It's hard for me to give the Steelers credit in this way. Like, New England beat themselves. It was funny. Vrabel looks very patient on the sidelines. He doesn't show his disgust. I mean, he knows he has a young team. He has a young quarterback. I watched this game, and my takeaway was, Jesus, the Steelers just made fewer mistakes. They made enough plays. I like Drake May, and I think I said this last week and the week before, like, he needs another 15 starts. He just makes too many mistakes. I mean, he threw a red zone pick that was completely inexcusable. It was as bad as a red zone pick. And by the way, the Cowboys, Milton and Dak, threw interceptions in the end zone. It was worse. Where are you on Drake May?
Yeah, I mean, his numbers actually didn't look terrible, but if you watch the game, the red zone pick, I'd put that and Jordan Love's interception as the picks of the day. Yeah, his fumble was awful. I mean, they had 4 fumbles, and they lost all 4 of them. The Steelers were my favorite bet of the week, and I'm with you. I was shocked how close the game was. You get 5 turnovers, and you don't win, if you're a good team, by 20-plus points. Their offense doesn't do much in Pittsburgh. It's not a well-oiled machine, and I know
they can't run the ball consistently.
No, and Aaron, some of his big plays so far this year is just kind of throw it up. Like, that's not really an offense. They have no sustained drives. Defensively, to me, they look pretty putrid. I mean, this was why I kind of bet on them being a solid team. Is I thought they were going to be maybe not top 2 or 3 defense, but definitely a top 10 defense. I just don't think their defense looks very good. Now, they made some plays today. They caused a fumble at the goal line, the pick. Drake threw it right to him. They easily could have lost this game. I mean, I'm out on Pittsburgh. I don't think they're very good right now. And I think one concerning part is we have seen guys invested in. Myles Garrett, they gave him a bunch of money. Myles Garrett is a freak. He's one of the most talented guys in the league. Max Crosby, every team in the league would line up to get Max Crosby. I think there is some concern. I know he fell on a fumble, but I think TJ does look his age a little bit, and they just gave him $100 million because I thought their defense was just going to be flying around, hitting people, and you watch them. They don't really get to the quarterback. I don't know. I would be pretty concerned, especially as the AFC opens wide up. The Texans stink. Burrow's out. The Bengals are done. It should actually. The Broncos are currently 1-2. But if you're a Steeler fan, you've watched. You go, I don't feel great about my team, even though we're 2-1.
Yeah, no, and that's how I feel. I wrote all my notes down here, and Aaron, by the way, had a bad pick. But it was 14-0 Pittsburgh early, and I wrote down doesn't feel dominating. It's just they're going to struggle to put teams away, and I also think one of the problems is, and I've talked about this a lot, John, if you can't run the football, what happens is in the second half, your defense is on the field for too many snaps. Like today, the Bears ran the football. Well, the defense for the Bears in the fourth quarter was getting a pass rush. Guys had great energy, and a lot of it was because Chicago ran the ball, especially in the third quarter, and you can extend drives. And Pittsburgh, again, they score, but they don't. It's not like you feel really good about this team on third down. So, listen, you are what your record is, but of any game today, I felt New England gave the game away. Had like four different opportunities in the second half to win, and either fumbles or penalties killed each one.
Well, the other thing, not being able to run the ball, they play in a division where it gets really cold. They play in a cold weather place, right? So you're going to have to run the ball and play defense. When I'm looking at their schedule, starting about mid-November, home against the Bengals, at the Bears, home against the Bills, at the Ravens, at the Browns, home against the Ravens. These games are not going to be San Francisco 70 degrees. It's going to be really cold. He's not going to be able to just sling it around. He's an older quarterback. So one thing that's pretty clear is these older guys, once the weather turns, harder for them to stay loose. I think Rodgers already looks his age. What's he going to look like when it's 30 degrees and windy at Baltimore or in Pittsburgh when it's freezing cold? We saw Roethlisberger at the end when it got cold. It's hard. You don't look as limber. You really
listen,
to me would be really concerning for me if our defense and we can't run the ball. What happens when the weather turns?
Yeah, I thought Matt Stafford today a little bit. There were times you're like, boy, Matt looked off.
Well, he got hit, and they started saying he started kind of touching his back. He went, ooh.
Yep. Hey, so we all make mistakes, but owning up to them is the right thing to do. So, Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and it did not go over well with their fans. So Degree's whole thing is it turns up the sweat and odor protection when you turn up the effort. And good thing it does, because Cool Rush fans really turned up the effort to bring the original formula back. One guy even started an online petition, and Degree listened. They admitted they effed up. They're bringing back the original Cool Rush scent. They're bringing it back, and it's exactly how you remember it. Cool, crisp, and fresh. It's back in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. There's a reason it's been the number one men's antiperspirant for the last decade. It's the same reason why people were not happy when it changed. So if you've never tried it, it might be a good time to see what the fuss is about. Head to your local Walmart, Target, and try the OG Degree Cool Rush for yourself. There's a couple of games that aren't worth a ton of time. Seattle 44, Saints 13. What's remarkable is Seattle led 38-6 at half and only had the ball 7 minutes. I don't remember ever watching a pro football game where the first half felt like I was watching a pro football team against the college team. New Orleans was awful. Special teams, defense, offense. I don't know if Seattle, if you took the national champions in college football and said, if you took last year's Ohio State team, would they trail 38-6? It was, I'm serious. New Orleans is right now as bad as a team can get. And again, I picked Seattle to be in the playoffs. They've really figured out how to use Darnold. It's really effective. It's a lot of pitch and catch. They don't put him in bad spots. They're not impatient. Like John Snyder, they went and got Sam Darnold, and they had a game plan on how to use him. And it's really effective. He's not going to put up the numbers in Minnesota. But this defense, this run game, like as I watch Seattle, my take is that's an organization. Seattle, John, has been better run than people think. They've been they draft well, they develop well, they've generally been, they've kind of done a pretty good job to remain in their division. They're always competitive. I watch Seattle right now. I mean, they blew Pittsburgh out in Pittsburgh. If Darnold doesn't hit, he created his own fumble. They're in the red zone to beat San Francisco. I think Seattle is really good right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talk about with quarterback and offensive coordinator cohesion. They get Kubiak, who knew him, and it fits. He fits in the Shanahan offense. And I think it was either the first or I think it was their first touchdown that he threw to JSN. It's like he's a good athlete. Get him on the move. And they ran him out because in this offense, you saw Mac Jones today doesn't move that well, and it kind of limits what the 49ers can do on offense because a huge part of the Shanahan offense, which Kubiak might as well be a Shanahan cousin, is the boot action, getting your quarterback on the move, and Sam has a big arm. I'm with you. I think Mike McDonald is a stud. I mean, I think he is big time. And this division right now, all three teams are 2-1, and the Niners are 3-0. I mean, I think all these teams are all four of the teams are feisty. I think the Rams, when they're on with Stafford, are the best. Obviously, the Niners are just well coached now with Saleh in the defense. And when Purdy comes back, I think Seattle's high end. They have a bunch of young, explosive players.
Yes.
And if the Cardinals, they might end up being the worst team in the division. They are not that bad. I mean,
right.
Kyler's a bizarre player because he's like, I don't know if he's good, but he's definitely not bad, and he can make enough plays. He's tough to play because he's so fast. He actually has pretty good touch on his throws. Like, he's not.
Yeah.
You watch Caleb sometimes, like, there's a little, because he throws so hard. Kyler has great, I don't know if it's the baseball in him. This division's tough. I mean, to me, it's wide open. I wouldn't even say the Cardinals are out of it. But, I think Seattle and the Rams, who technically have, 2-1 versus the Niners 3-0, by no means. I mean, this is going to come down to the wire. They're all going to beat up on each other. I do think Seattle, the home field's kind of awoke this year. It feels, the Niners went up there and won, but that place was loud and rocking. I think they kind of got their swag back. Listen, I think Sam Darnold, if you can get Sam Darnold for a cheaper price than Geno Smith and flip Geno for a third-round pick, I think it was kind of a no-brainer move, especially get a little younger. And I think the one thing you see with Geno, and I bet Sam has some of this too, is Geno's 35, 36 years old, older player, 34. He doesn't play well against good teams.
He doesn't.
So forever when he was against Seattle, for those couple-year stretch when the Niners were really good, he was terrible against them. You watch him against the Chargers, he's completely overwhelmed. Watch him today against Washington, they felt kind of overwhelmed. Where Sam, listen, he's a decade younger, 7-8 years younger, and there's
and he was always a better athlete. Yeah, he was always a better athlete.
Much better. They both have huge arms, and he's just playing at a higher level. So I think it was a relatively easy move for him, and it's definitely going to pay off long term.
It wasn't a very fun game to watch. San Francisco, the Niners beat Arizona 16-15. Nick Bosa got banged up. Arizona, for a long spell, dominated time of possession. It's one of those games where, I don't have a strong take because Mac Jones played. You're very limited what you can do with Mac Jones. I mean, again, when he is stationary and has time to throw, he can be really good. Today there's limitations on what you can do. Of course, there was that safety, which gave, in the end zone where, Arizona, I thought was going to pull this thing out. I don't know what it is exactly with the injuries with San Francisco. I mean, it's a perpetual issue. I don't know, and again, I think they've missed on enough draft picks. I think they've gotten old. And one of my predictions was this year is I like San Francisco, but two things can be true. They're old, brittle, and expensive at key spots. They're already banged up. I mean, what do you think they look like? I mean, the win today, but what do you think they look like in 6 to 8 weeks?
I would say this, they've hit on some young players. Ricky Pearsall today was a man amongst boys. Ricky Pearsall, Marvin Harrison so far is a whiff. That's if they get a redo, they would go Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison. Ricky Pearsall, in a 3-game stretch, looks like a number 1 wide receiver. Mykel Williams, the dude they drafted from Georgia, was making big-time plays. D. Winters, who replaced Dre Greenlaw, looks like he's going hand-in-hand right there with Fred flying around hitting people. So they've hit on some young guys. The problem is Kittle's missing. Purdy's been out. Now, granted, Mac Jones, you win 2 games as a backup quarterback. I've said this last week. You win 1 game, you earn your salary. You win 2, you're underpaid. Mac Jones immediately 2 games, win, led him on a game-winning drive. He's underpaid, but he's already banged up, limping around. Bosa, in like the first couple drives, hurts his knee, out for the game. I saw that they are going to get tested tomorrow. They don't believe it to be an ACL. That would be devastating. Trent's looked old. He is old. I mean, Kittle's been missing. So, yeah, they are just – they're pretty dependent on their high-end guys if they're going to compete at the highest level with the Eagles, with the Rams, with any team in the AFC. But for the most part, they don't play any of these teams. Besides the Rams, they play a lot of bad teams on their schedule. So this is why I picked them to make the playoffs. Now, can they go far in the playoffs? Not if they're not healthy. But they can have a successful season. And today, coaching – I mean, Robert Saleh's been incredible for them through 3 games. Their defense is flying around.
Yeah, and last year, it was funny. If Bosa got banged up last year, it felt like a major personnel issue, and yet this year it doesn't. So it's just like Jim Harbaugh. Last year, you're like, oh, outside of Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Chargers just don't have enough dudes. Well, why are they all great now? Like, so much of it's coaching in this league. And I do think we're seeing a slight pivot back to the respectability of defensive coaches. Saleh, Mike McDonald, Jesse Minter, Brian Flores. Like, I think you and I have talked a lot this year about some great defensive coaches. I mean, Todd Bowles deserves credit. The Jets were inept. They scored 3 touchdowns in 11 minutes. That game was awful. And then Baker. But I mean, Todd Bowles deserves credit. Like, there's no ego, very chill. But you know what I think is really interesting? Football season's here, and if you want to go to an NFL or college football game, Game Time is the place for you. The Game Time app just gives you the advantage back to you, the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. I love it. Easy to use. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price, 100%. So they even let you preview your seat on the app. That's special. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay every time. Take the guesswork out of buying professional football tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account. If you use the code Colin, C-O-L-I-N, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code C-O-L-I-N, $20 off, swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. If I ran the Dolphins, I would get out from under Chris Greer, the GM, and I would get out from under Tua's contract. I'd do what I had to do. If I had to cut him, if I had to trade him, I would. I never quite know what to do with Kyler Murray because, unlike Tua, he's actually very elusive and highly athletic. I think he has a better arm, although it's not a great arm. I think there are times he just can't see downfield. I don't know what you do with Kyler Murray. What do you do?
Yeah, I think you're kind of stuck. I actually thought he played pretty decent today. I mean, he just makes so many plays with his legs. But he
made a ton today.
There's just a ceiling with him. Like, he's never – like, Jalen can drive you nuts, but he makes enough throws if AJ and Devontae are rolling from the pocket outside the numbers. Kyler's very hit or miss that way. Most of his explosive plays, it feels like, as a thrower, come from on the move. Which, of course, he's probably one of, if not the best athletes in the entire league. Like, if you told me Kyler just, quit quarterback tomorrow and learned how to play corner, I'd be like, I bet he could be a really good nickel corner. How many guys could, like, Mac Jones couldn't start on defense for a high school team. So right. I think that, I think the Cardinals are pretty well coached. They're tough. I thought he just got limitations, but what do you do? I had this thought watching, the Thursday night game with Tua is I think it's so easy, and we saw all these backup quarterbacks. It's been like this forever with Dak and the Purdys and the Cousins. I think it's easy to say, hey, for that second tier of guys, of course, if you got the elite guy, you just ride him till the wheels fall off for 15 years. But if you got that next tier of guys where it's like, could we do better than Brock Purdy? Could we do better than Dak? Sure, you probably could if you can find Justin Herbert somewhere. Because all I heard all offseason, I was probably guilty of this too, is like, oh, look at these quarterbacks in college. I've been flipping around the last couple of weeks, and I'm not seeing it, Colin. So because unlike, and I say this all the time, like basketball, for example, when you see these guys coming out of high school, they are going to be a lock top 10 pick, right? As long as they're healthy. When you start hearing about Gilbert Arenas' son or Marcus Spears' son or whoever, these guys, whether maybe they have incredible college years and go number 1 overall. But worst case scenario, it could go shitty, Ron Harper's kid, and go 2 or 3, right? But in football, hype doesn't mean anything once you start playing the games. All I heard, DJ Lagway stinks.
Yeah.
Arch Manning, maybe he's injured or whatever, but no one could draft him in the first round right now. Nobody.
Well, I'm not sure he's a draftable period right now.
Well, no, he's not. But you just go around the country, all these guys that you hear, and then there'll be a couple that kind of come out of nowhere. But it's hard to replace Tua, let alone Kyler Murray. Like, who are you replacing them with? You don't have any options. So I've actually kind of come around of like, I get it. Now, I wouldn't want to be in position to pay him, but like I do, and I think they're always paid too much. It's like, who are you negotiating against for Tua? You couldn't offer him 3 years, $100 million. He's going to say no.
No, I hated the day they signed him. I said, you're going to regret this. This is a bad contract.
Same thing with Kyler Murray. It's like, remember when they rushed into it after 3 years? Like, why are we doing this? Like, how is the agent taking you guys to school? But I do understand just writing it out for a couple of years, because who do you have to replace him? Now, I do think you get to a point where you get in a situation like Anthony Richardson, you're like, this is not, we can't play like this, right? But when you get Kyler Murray, who could they find available that could come in and beat Kyler Murray out? Even Sam Darnold. Let's say, now he got $50 million, but let's just say in a world a year or two ago, they could have got him for $10 million. Are we sure Sam Darnold in a training camp situation where Kyler already knows the offense could beat him out? No, there's not, especially if it's just like truly an open competition. There's no guarantee. And you're like, why are we going to waste $10 million on a competition with someone that probably won't beat him out when we could use those resources other places? I think you could find yourself in a bad spot, because the reality is there are 5-6 guys max who can play this position at the highest level. I thought CJ Stroud was one of those guys. I watch him now. I'm like, is he a top 15 quarterback the way he's playing?
No, I mean, he has regressed. I mean, it is bad.
Like Kyler, for example, is way better than him right now. I would take Kyler in a heartbeat over CJ Stroud, but that's
no question.
So it shows you like that guy 6 to like probably 15 at the lowest. They're so predicated on who they're playing with, who's coaching them, the scheme that they're running, who they're playing. Like, they are very fickle. Like, you watch Brock Purdy for a stretch, you're like, God, this guy's playing at an elite level. And then you watch him on his bad games, their floor is a lot lower. Like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, their floor is pretty freaking high. Herbert now, his floor is pretty freaking high. Bo Nix, his floor is low. You watch him on his off days, you're like, whoa. Even Cam Ward, I'm rooting for the guy, but I'm watching him like, oh, he's got a ways to go.
Yeah. I want to talk some college football. I saw a stat this weekend. Listen, Clemson's not very good. They didn't want to do the transfer portal, and it feels like they need about 6 more good players. But, and I like Dabo Swinney. I think he's stubborn. I think Mike Krzyzewski for about 2 years was stubborn with one and done. Bobby Knight was forever, and it was the end of Bobby Knight's career. I think Dabo has to go into the transfer portal, and you don't have to get 13, 15, 18 guys. You could need 8, but they just don't look talented enough. I think USC is better than people think. So I'm going to the Trojans-Illinois game. They were a 7-point favorite. Illinois got smoked. I watched 12 hours of college football yesterday. 12 hours. I sat in front of a TV forever. Nebraska, the stat I saw that was funny, Nebraska's lost 29 straight games to ranked opponents, which doesn't even sound right. But I also stayed up till 1:30 in the morning watching USC.
You watched the whole game?
I fell asleep at about 6 minutes to go. I fell asleep. Then I woke up the next morning and watched YouTube at the end.
I'm 2 hours ahead of you, and I made it through about half a quarter, and I was asleep. So you're better man than me.
Well, I took a huge nap in the afternoon. So I got up super early, and then 11 in the morning, which is like 9 your time, I took a 45-minute nap.
Yeah.
So I stayed up and I watched it. If you're doubting Lincoln Riley's coaching, Jaden Mayava has actually been the most impressive quarterback I've seen. Now, I think Bryce Underwood at Michigan's got a freaking hose. I mean, he throws with velocity that is just intense. It jumps. It's like Josh Allen. It jumps off the TV screen. It's intense. So I think Bryce is more talented, obviously. But I'm watching USC. It's the first time since Pete Carroll. They are big up front defensively. They got NFL guys. They got huge pass rush. They're bad on the corners, so they're going to be a team that's going to get into a shootout and lose, probably to Oregon. They're not going to be able to contain them. But I watched that Jaden Mayava. last year he was immature. He was wild. That kid has been so coached up. I looked at him and I'm like, nobody is. I saw this year he was ranked like the 16th best college quarterback by some college service. And I'm like, I've watched Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller. I mean, Dante Moore of Oregon's impressive. There's another guy
good.
that
No, he looks good.
He can spin it. Like that kid can spin it. But I think USC is going to beat Illinois. They got smoked by Indiana. What is your interpretation? Like I've said before, I think NIL saves Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley. Nobody can spend $20 million a year on players and then buy out the coach $80 million. Brian Kelly's going to be fine. Lincoln's going to stay for years. But I will say, watching the running back room where they went and got a couple of transfers, watching this quarterback who I think is way better than the nation's talking about, watching their size, USC looks like a playoff team to me.
I was on a couple text threads yesterday, and one theme, and you've been on this, I think as this NIL era keeps expanding, and obviously the prices, I mean, you and I hear about some of them behind the scenes. Like these numbers aren't being made up. They are outrageous. The Big Ten has benefited the most from it. And I'd say top to bottom. I'm watching Rutgers, Iowa. I bet these programs have boosters because their enrollments are so. Maryland's 4-0. Like they have the money backing them, let alone Oregon, Ohio State. Well, what does USC have? Texas Tech, who I loved Utah. Maybe I didn't take Texas Tech seriously because they've never been good on defense. Well, guess what? They have a billionaire who bought a bunch of defensive linemen, and they dominated Utah.
And Utah's got the best offensive line they've ever had.
2 first-round picks. But you know what money can do? It can buy you, pass rushers and run stuffers. And they dominated the front. So to me, the NIL era, it has never been more evident. Does Clemson have the money that Oregon and USC have? No chance. How could they? So I wonder if there's a financial standpoint of, and the one thing I would say for Dabo, and I would say this if this year looks where it's headed with Mike Tomlin, sometimes like you can only be in a place so long. Eventually, Bill Walsh used to say it's 10 years. These guys are defying it. Maybe it's 15, 20. I saw Dabo, you felt bad for him, like how he was saying how much it hurt him. He's been there 23 years as assistant and head coach. Why not go to Florida? Just get a new start. Get people that appreciate you. Get, new boosters. Have a new world. Like maybe it's just time for a change. And it does feel like he's holding on till the bitter end where it's like clearly not working. I mean, Colin, they could easily be 0-4. They were losing to Troy, and I don't know if it was a hurricane or just your average southern storm, but delayed the game. They were getting killed in that. They were down 16-0.
This first quarter against
Syracuse was kicking their ass.
Oh, it was 24-7. And in the first quarter, I looked at a mock draft. I'm like, they have 2 of the top 7 defensive players. It's like they were getting rolled by Syracuse.
Well, the other thing is, I think Saban said this a while back, is, NIL's great, but when you pay the wrong guys, you're in trouble. Cade Klubnik is just not very good. And regression, I don't know. I mean, he played well in that playoff game against Texas, throwing some of those go routes where they hit some touchdowns to make that game kind of close. He has looked atrocious. And the one thing we know now that college football with NIL and money has become a little more like pro football. If you do pay the wrong quarterback, I'd say the same thing for Nebraska. Like I watched Dylan Raiola and I just go, I don't really see it. I don't
see it either.
See it.
I don't see it.
Like, is John Mateer the number 1 overall pick? Probably not. But is he damn good in college and he's changing Oklahoma? Hell yeah.
Oh, no, he looks like he's got it. Yeah.
So you look around college football and you go, like the kid at Oregon, Moore. He was thrust in for Chip, right? Clearly wasn't ready. Their team wasn't as good offensively. And everyone's like, oh, this guy sucks. No, he's an 18-year-old. He's got some physical skills. UCLA's talent around him's not great. He almost got like a Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Got to go away, sit for a second. Now he's on a team loaded, really talented. The Cal quarterback, who had an awful game.
Oh, my God.
But he's a good player. He went to Oregon in the spring, graduated in Hawaii early, a high school kid, realized there's no chance I'm playing here, transfers to Cal. He's a guy that's going to get multiple $1 million offer this offseason to go play at LSU, Florida State. And more like Oregon, I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. I think a lot of people thought USC was underrated because last year their record, while it was terrible, didn't they lose like like
Dude,
5 of their losses were one-score games.
They beat LSU, Texas A&M, and they lost to Penn State in overtime. Like, they beat teams, and when they lost, outside of the Notre Dame game where they just were a mess,
Minnesota, Maryland, they had some devastating fourth quarter.
They led all those games with 7 minutes to go. So I watched them. I watched their speed. I watched their size, and I'm like, I don't know, this quarterback. I've been so underwhelmed. Dante Moore's impressed me. Jaden Mayav has impressed me. And Nussmeier is really hit and miss. He was not good this past weekend. So I don't know. I think, to your point, you and I had said this, and I know it's offensive to some people, but in the South, those are smaller schools, and the car dealer can be the first or second biggest booster. We're talking about venture capital money at Michigan. We're talking, that's what you're getting at USC. Guys are writing $20 million checks. They get $30 million annual bonuses. It's just a different world.
Totally. I mean, I'm stunned. I wanted to hate Cignetti last year, him getting in the playoffs, then embarrassing himself, and I was kind of, rooting for Illinois. They beat the living out of Illinois. I mean, that to win
was it 63 to 10?
Yeah. So you could have taken Illinois plus 52 and you would have lost. I mean, that in Illinois over the last couple of years with Bielema, that's a real team. Listen, Indiana, maybe they're better this year. They get the Cal transfer, Mendoza, who's had a really good game against them. Maybe the Cignetti guy actually is better than I thought because, and this is what we talk about, the Big Ten, like they're buying players. Like Indiana football. This is Lee Corso in the 70s. This is 2025. Now, are they as good as Penn State, Oregon, USC, and Ohio State? Probably not. But I take them a little more seriously after that game to Illinois. I know that because I took Illinois in that game. But it's one thing to win. 63 to 10? 63 against Bielema? That was the most impressive performance, I thought, over the weekend that I saw.
John Middlekauff, 3 and Out is his podcast, former NFL scout. As always, buddy, good work.
Fight on, Colin.